Hello and welcome to the Meet the Parents podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Meet the Parents podcast, bringing you your weekly dose of chatter from some of the UK's top parent bloggers. I'm Tim from Slouching Towards Thatcham, and I'm joined tonight by Vicky from Verily Victoria Vocalisers. Good evening.
Hello, Tim.
So this week we're going to devote the entire episode to the biggest parent blogging event on the calendar, BML 16, the conference formerly known as BritMums Live. We're recording this first segment of the podcast a couple of days before the biggest parent blogging event of the year, BritMums BML 16. Now this kicks off with a little social soiree in London on Friday evening and then runs all day Saturday. Now the day culminates with the Brilliance in Blogging Awards, aka the Bibs, which will be presented by TV's Cavill Smiley, and the Meet the Parents podcast team have 3 representatives in the final there, with Dave the Dad Venturer, John from Dadblog UK, and Hayley from Downside Up. But before we get there, in between we have an opening keynote by Anne-Marie Cockburn, whose book 5,742 Days recounts her experiences in the immediate aftermath of the death of her 15-year-old daughter, who died after swallowing half a gram of ecstasy. On top of that, there will also be a load of workshops and table talks and other sessions to help bloggers improve their writing and social media skills and generally provoke thought and inspiration. Now, some of these are being run by external industry experts, while others will be run by fellow parent bloggers who will share some real-life practical tips behind their own successful blogs. Now, these include a photographic session with Charlie Dove of the Blog Podcast, a Pinterest workshop with a Mummy 2's Emily Leary, and a table talk for parents under 30 hosted by BritMums Under 30's editor, our very own Amy from Finding Our Feet. So, Vicky, now you're a veteran of BritMums from years gone by, so what parts of the day are you looking forward to most this year?
Oh gosh, that makes me sound old, doesn't it, veteran? There's quite a few things actually, and funnily enough, like yourself, I'm one of the editors for BritMums. I'm their poetry, or one of their poetry and prose roundup editors. And I wrote a post recently about the 5 things I'm looking forward to most. Now, probably you're going to say similar to me, the keynote speech, the bloggers' keynote speeches, is one of my favourite parts of the event. This will be my 4th year. And each year it's had a slightly different spin on it. It's been emotional, it's been funny, it's been thought-provoking, and that really speaks volumes to me. And it, in a way, when you're listening to these speeches, it brings the community together. It's really strange. Even if you read the post that that person's reading already, it brings it to life. And as you know, you and I are lucky enough to be 2 of those keynote speakers this year, and that has been a massive goal for me, I have to say. The first year I went, I thought, I want to be up there. And this year I'm actually getting that chance, and I feel really honoured.
I'm much the same. The blogger's keynote is very much my personal highlight. And like you say, there's nothing quite like listening to a post that's been read in the original author's voice to make the words really resonate with you. And I mean, I remember from last year, I alternately roared with laughter and was surreptitiously wiping away tears. And, you know, it very much became the inspiration for starting up this podcast. So, yeah, absolutely. The blogger's keynote will always have a special place in my heart. And then, as I say, I mean, you and I have the privilege of being the first 2 of the 7 bloggers' keynotes.
Yeah, I'm the first one.
Yeah. So, can you give us a bit of a sneak preview in terms of what you'll be reading?
As most people know, I write poetry on my blog, and been chosen to read one of my poems actually, and it's called For the Love of Blogging. So it takes a slightly different spin on, not worrying about things like stats, and it's become a business in disguise, my blog, that type of thing. So I'm not going to give too much away. because I want people to go across and have a look at it. But I was really pleased they chose that one. I put one of my own posts forward, a different one actually. So I don't know who chose this post for me, but whoever did, thank you very much. It means I get to talk about why we're all there, really.
And then second up is me.
Yeah, I know, and I really I love the fact that you've got to sing.
Yeah, mine's going to be a little bit different, isn't it? Because I don't get to read, but I get to sing. So I will be attempting to X Factor my way through my parody version of the Psychedelic Furs classic Pretty in Pink, which is actually a piece of social commentary that I wrote about Isaac's gender stereotype defying love of all things pink, which is a key part of his entire personality really during his preschool years. Anything else that you're particularly looking forward to from the day?
Actually, it's taken on a slightly different format this year, because obviously, as you know, last year we had a day and a half's worth of sessions and different events going on. Whereas this year, Jen and Susanna have cut it down to one day with a fringe party the night before, which I think is a fantastic idea. It gives everybody a chance to sort of break themselves in gently, so to speak. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the fringe party pans out. It's a couple of hours at a hotel in Camden Lock, and it's going to be an interesting event, actually. It'll be nice to sort of just go along there and just have a bit of a way to socialise with everybody and get to speak to people, because when you're actually at BritMums Live during the day, you feel like your head's going to explode sometimes because of the amount of people there are there, the amount of things there are to see and do. You feel sort of like you're all over the place trying to have a conversation with somebody with your mind halfway on the fact that you've got to go to a session in 5 minutes and go and see that sponsor, you know, who's got a session going on and you want to go and win something. So you don't feel like you're immersed fully into one thing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that too, because for me, the big thing about BML is the social aspect. You know, I mean, last year I was a complete conference newbie. I'd never been to any kind of parent blogging event before, so you know, I didn't really know anyone, and yet I connected with so many people who I'd only ever previously conversed with online, and I made a whole load of other new friends. You know, this year I'm very much looking forward to reconnecting with old friends and making some more new ones. So you will probably find me outside in the public areas more than you will in the actual sessions themselves.
Yeah, that's what I learned, actually. After the first year of wanting to go to every single session, the next couple of years I picked and chose the sessions I wanted to do, and then made sure I had at least one or two where I didn't go and spent time out in the hallways and the areas where the sponsors were, speaking to people and just generally catching up without, you know, trying to focus on a session which maybe I couldn't fully focus on because I wanted to go and do something else as well.
That's very much the case with me.
And the other thing I'm looking forward to is the bibs in the evening, because it's always such a lovely feeling celebrating other people. I mean, okay, you and I made the shortlist, which was fantastic, but as you said at the beginning of the podcast, we've got a few people we know in the finals, and I'm really, you know, rooting for some of them.
One of the great things about the Bib Awards is that it is a celebration of all that is great, both in terms of the quality and the sheer variety of subjects that people write about in the parent blogging sphere. So, you know, I think I find it a real inspiration. So, yeah, very much looking forward to that as well. So, well, why don't we pick up the discussion again later in the podcast as we review the event after the fact. But first, let's use the magic of online media to whisk ourselves onto London for BML itself.
I'm Pamela and I blog over at Life with Munchers, and I also take part in a few collaborative blogs with other bloggers. Eat Your Heart Out with a couple of other bloggers, Donna and Steph, and also a blog called Roost with Molly and Alison and various other bloggers. This is my third BritMums now, been at the last two. Certainly more relaxed this time round. First BritMums is always a bit overwhelming. It's just all these people, you're a newbie, you don't know who anyone is. Second year, you recognise people from the year before. But third year, I mean, because the format's different this year, it's only one day and there's not as many people, it's definitely much more relaxed this time round.
I'm Kerry-Ann, or KA as some know me, and my blog is Life as Our Little Family. It actually is my first time. It is. So I've been blogging, this will be my 3rd year, but I've never been able to match the weekends. It's always around my son's birthday. But this time I thought I was going to amalgamate to make it really busy. I've come here being an experienced blogger now, and I wanted to really network with some of the people I talk to so much online. So from a networking perspective, it's absolutely hit my expectations. I really enjoyed listening to Charlie, who did a session on 10 ways to tell stories through your photography, which is something I really love. But also just being able to sit out in the breakout areas and just have a relaxed conversation with some of the mummy and daddy bloggers and just be ourselves.
You get 3 for the price of 1 now. I'm here with Al from the Dad Network, Darren from Photolife with an A, and John from Dad You Geek. So, guys, how does it feel to be part of the continuing small minority of dads at BML?
The elite, you mean?
Well, apparently it's the year of the dad, according to 3 different people I've spoken to so far.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but someone said that she was tipping that this is the year of the dad.
Obviously, that was a tip for the award winners coming up then later.
Whoa, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that was Emily Leary, wasn't it?
All 4 of us have been to BritMums before, but what were we all looking to get out today?
I was just looking to meet up with you guys again because I haven't seen some of you for...
Stop it.
Oh, we love you, John.
It's true.
And the food.
And the food was quite good this year, actually. I'll give you that. Yeah. It wasn't bad.
There you go, it's all about the food.
It's all about the food. It's all about the social for me.
Someone said some free food tonight as well, so I'll go involved.
So you've just
with
come for the food. That is basically it.
Not just the food. Obviously I want to see you.
Oh, well, of course, but...
Tim was alright. You're out.
I'm just a byproduct, is that right?
That's about as high praise as it gets, I think, isn't it?
From him, yeah.
What's the highlight of the day for each of us then, either in terms of what we've seen already or what's coming up?
Social and meeting people, putting faces to names.
Yeah.
What about number of dads here? What do we think we need to do to get more dads at BML?
I think there's more here than there has been for a few years.
Yeah, there must be nearly 20 of us here now.
All right, you've been drinking, but there's definitely 10.
Yeah,
10.
John's seen double. It's probably 10.
I just keep counting the same people twice, don't I? So yeah, I don't know.
I think dads just need to step out of the comfort zone. There's nothing to put you off. It's not some cult that you join in. It's just step out of your comfort zone and you'll come back again.
They've even started calling it BML rather than BritMums.
Yeah.
They have been referring to it as BML.
Yeah.
To cut out the mums. I think that it's it'd be nice to have the potential to have something specific for dads. I don't know, even if it was a social thing. A dad bloggers social round table or whatever. Even a few more male speakers would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that'd be good. There aren't that many this year, are there? But I guess maybe some of that's incumbent on us to try and push a little bit more.
Yeah.
They're more than happy if people want to speak at these events. Put yourself forward, and they're never going to say no.
Yeah. So Jen and Susanna, if you want someone to talk shit, we're your men.
That's what the wife says about me anyway. Yeah.
It's just about all you're capable of.
Thanks for reading the blogs.
So that was just a small sample of the several hundred bloggers who were present at BML last weekend. You heard Pamela from Life with Munchers, Kerry-Ann from Life as Our Little Family, then Darren from Photolife and the Love All Dads podcast, Al from the Dad Network, and John from Dad You Geek. So it's now Wednesday night as Vicky and I record this final section of the podcast, and we've both had a few days since BML to reflect on how we think the event went. So to start off with, Vicky, how was it for you overall? I mean, I know there was a lot of talk in the weeks leading up to the event about whether the new one-day format would work compared to the old schedule, which spread it out over 2 shorter days. So any thoughts?
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, I was interested to see how it was going to work. And actually what I felt was that you had to try and fit it all and squash it all in. In the previous years, I've attended 3 prior to this, and having it over the Friday and Saturday made everything a lot easier. As I said in my post, which I've written earlier today, I felt that I didn't have enough time to do all the sessions I wanted, as well as see a majority of the people I wanted to see. And even then I didn't. So I felt like I had to cut what I was doing quite short to make sure I could socialise as well as speak to some of the brands. So in the past, when it's been over the Friday afternoon and all day Saturday, I felt it was a little more relaxed and a bit easier to just pick and choose the sessions, not worry about missing out on anything else. Whereas this year I felt sort of this, I don't know, this feeling that I was missing out on speaking or seeing people.
Yeah, and I think my experience was very similar. I think firstly putting it all into one day. We started at 9:30 and effectively ran on until 7:30, made it a very long and tiring day, and it was quite a close, humid, muggy day as well, wasn't it? Which didn't necessarily help that much, and I think that did make it difficult for some people, particularly those who were travelling from some distance away, which meant that they were pretty much compelled to book 2 nights stay rather than just the one, and obviously that adds to the cost and expense of coming to the event, and I'm sure that did contribute. Numbers were certainly down from last year. I don't know exactly what they were, but I think it was noticeable that there weren't quite as many people in the venue as there were last year. And I think you're right about the pressure on the social as well. I think although there were plenty of breaks for networking during the day, if you didn't go to the Friday Fringe, it felt like there was very little time to really get around and speak to all the people that you wanted to speak to, and to talk to some of the newer people who were coming for the first time. People who have been to BML will have seen there have been some comments on Twitter and social media that some first timers found it difficult to break into conversations. They felt it was maybe a bit cliquey, and there were some stories going around of mums who had left the event upset because they felt excluded. And do you think maybe that was maybe one of those undesirable side effects of moving to a one-day format?
It's interesting actually, because I hadn't experienced any of that. I didn't notice any of that, and certainly I like to think that I'm quite approachable. So if people want to come and talk to me, because I'm terrible at recognising faces. I can't connect people's faces to their blogs or vice versa. So it's difficult if you don't know somebody and then they're worried about coming and talking to you as well. It can feel cliquey if they think, I can't approach them because they're looking at me with a blank expression. But then on the same token, it's important to welcome other new people into this. And I think you're right. I think a part of that is having it condensed into one day. I know an awful lot of people had to get up extremely early in the morning to travel. So they're up at, 5, 6 in the morning. Whereas if you're staying at the hotel up the road, you can obviously get up at 8. And as you quite rightly already said, Tim, having to travel a long distance just to justify it because you would have to stay at least one night if you're travelling a long way. And in the past, when I've travelled up on the Friday, I've travelled up first thing Friday morning, managed to get into All Bar One by lunchtime to walk down to the brewery together with a bunch of people who you've met prior, to then walk to the event together. So you're actually sort of mingling with people there. Whereas that wasn't the case this year, and there just wasn't that opportunity.
Yeah, and, on Monday I ended up just floating a poll on Twitter, which I know isn't necessarily the most scientific way to do it, asking whether people would prefer a 1 or a 2 day event next year. And, I had 40-odd responses, and, the overwhelming majority, 85%, said they would prefer a 2-day event. So maybe that might involve going back to the kind of format we've had in previous years where, like you say, you have a later start after lunch on the Friday, and then an earlier finish on the Saturday. So that enables people to be a little bit more flexible in terms of both travel and hotel cost, and so on. And maybe that's some food for thought for next year. So I guess I'm looking at things from a dad's perspective. So one of the things that really stood out for me was, I think things were better this year with the change of name, which starts to shift the emphasis away from BritMums to BML, although we still all stand around calling it BritMums for the moment, but these things take time. But there were, I think there was some, there were a few comments around, is BritMums still paying lip service to dads? I think there was a well-intentioned attempt to producer dad's photo late in the afternoon, which ended up being quite hurried and for me wasn't clearly communicated. So it felt a little bit like dads were being pulled together for a token photo for show. And you know, that's a real shame, because I think a lot of these things are well intentioned, but so often the way they're communicated can be interpreted in a number of different ways. And I know of at least one dad who said that he would come back for BML next year, but he wouldn't come for the conference itself. He would just come for the social and meet people outside of it. And that's a real shame at the time when this year there were a couple more dads than last year. And it would be a shame to lose that, you know, that momentum that is slowly starting to build.
I agree. I mean, I have to say, one of the things I did say to Steph when we were wandering around the hub was that if there was a scantily clad woman wandering around in a mainly male-filled blogger conference, there'd be uproar from the women and they'd walk out. Having this guy, and don't get me wrong, I know it was in a good cause, and I said this on my post, I know it was in a good cause, but having this male model in these trunks wandering around in aid of bollocks was, quite frankly, a bit sort of, I felt a bit awkward about it for the guys, really. And
actually talking to people, it was a lot of the mums who felt most awkward about it at all. And you know, while none of the dads thought that it was a particularly good or appropriate idea, I think actually it caused a lot more upset amongst the mums. So now that we've talked about things that maybe weren't so great, what were your highlights of the event?
Oh, there's quite a few actually. I have to say I really enjoyed the opening speeches, both from Anne-Marie Cockburn and Julie Craffield. I thought they were really good. They were very different in their content, but both of them very engaging. So I think they were chosen well. I went to just one small session about travel with Costa Brava. That was really great. They did a really good job of putting on a lovely display of food, giving us drink. So which blogger doesn't like that? And I loved the social aspect this year. It was I just felt much more relaxed about talking to people. I think maybe also I was in a different place emotionally as well compared to this time last year. So that kind of helped. But it was just nice to be able to, now I feel like I know even more people. It was nice to be able to go around and talk to people. And then of course the keynote, which you and I both did. And I had some lovely people come up afterwards and give me some compliments and say they could hear me clearly. So that kind of helps, because I wanted to go up there and make sure I didn't stutter and stammer over my words, and I did okay from what I could see. So yeah, no, they were my highlights, I think, the socialising and the keynotes.
Yeah, and I'm going to be really boring and pretty much say exactly the same two things. You know, I've said already, you know, I come to BML much more for the social than for any other aspects of the event. And you know, even last year when I was really worried about it, when I was a first timer, I didn't actually know anyone. I found it surprisingly easy then, and actually it was doubly so this year, and it was great. You know, I connected with lots of old friends. I met plenty of new ones. You know, I can't possibly include everyone, but let me do a few shout outs to, you know, to Prabs from Absolutely Prabulous, Jenny from the Brick Castle, Lucy from Occupation Mother. There aren't too many times in life when a Sunday Times best-selling author, that being Sarah the Unmumsy Mum, seeks you out in the crowd to give you an excited hug. And also just to everyone who I didn't have a chance to connect with, I am really, really sorry. And it was all just a matter of not having enough time in the day to say hello to everyone. So especially to Emma of Island Living 365, who I have subsequently discovered spotted me across the room, shouted "Tim" at me, and I didn't hear her. An anecdote which she has since chosen to recount on radio. So, oops. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the bloggers' keynotes as well. And I have to admit, singing as I did, when I did the sound check in the morning, I was absolutely terrified. And I had butterflies in the pit of my stomach during the 40-odd minutes while I was waiting, while Cherry Healy was doing her thing. But actually, what I found was listening to you do yours before me actually really helped me focus a little bit. And then the moment I stepped on stage, I was fine. I enjoyed every second of it. And, the standing ovation at the end felt pretty good too.
I thought you did an amazing job. I really do. I was just, I was still in a bit of shell shock when I came off the stage. I missed the first bit. But listening to you, I just thought, wow, you're doing this. This is great. And you were so worried about doing it. But like you say, feel the fear, go up there, do it. And it was fine, and having all that support as well.
But, I've always loved the keynotes. I loved Juana's, incredibly emotional and moving reading about losing her child, and then you've mentioned Helen already, the post she read about rattling the cages of Parliament and the campaigning she's done around type 1 diabetes, and they're both amazing examples of the power that bloggers can wield with their words and actions. And then Al's video interview at the end with Ted for his position of stay-at-home dad was just
hilarious.
That was just a brilliant way to finish the session. Session, wasn't it?
They should have finished the whole event on that. And then of course Alison as well. I can't miss her off because she did a great job of just speaking about identity changes when you become a parent. So it was a good session.
Overall, would we say that BML this year was a success?
I would say, generally speaking, it was. I just think they need to rethink their new format.
I'd agree. I think the format and maybe some of the content could do with a bit of a lick of paint and a refresh. But it's still a highlight of the year. It's still an event that brings hundreds of bloggers together, and just the buzz around the public areas when outside of the workshop sessions was, it was brilliant. You could really feel the energy and the excitement in the place. So
one suggestion, which I did think of earlier, which I wanted to put, was that maybe they could do the sessions and maybe duplicate them. So have the same content twice, so that if there's a high demand for one specific session, but it clashes with another one you want to see, you've got another opportunity to go back to one again. That might be
that'd be an interesting idea, and I think certainly it's worth considering. Some tweaks to the format to maybe make certain parts of the day a bit more accessible for everyone. So, let's see what happens with next year's event. So there you have it, our review of BML 16. Some people didn't like it, many people did, but if you're a blogger and you've never been before, you will never know for yourself unless you try it. And the conference is about so much more than workshops and awards and the opportunity to connect with brands. It's about something much more important than that. It's about a community that has become, to me at least, like a second family. And like blogging itself, BML is more than about the words, the images, the videos that we post. It's about the people behind them. And that's where I think the true value of the event really lies. So roll on BML 17.
And I second all those emotions.
And that's it for this special BML 16 episode of the Meet the Parents podcast. We'll be back again next week, but in the meantime, here's where you can find Vicky and I online.
You can find me at Verily Victoria Vocalizes. The URL is vevivos.com, and I'm on Twitter at Vic Welton.
And my blog you can find at slouchingtowardsthatcham.com, and I'm on Twitter and other social media as at ThatchamDad. Now you can download this podcast on iTunes and on Android devices, on our website at meettheparentspodcast.com, and via a variety of podcasting apps. Do please give us a follow on Twitter at ParentsPodcast and Facebook at facebook.com/meettheparentspodcast. So thank you for listening, and do please join us again next week. Good night.